Welcome back. We're back after a brief break, and as promised, Homero El Defensor Villarreal. For those of you who don't know him, and few who do, who don't, he's on Facebook, he's on Twitter, he's on radio at times, he's on our television show as a permanent fixture, and don't forget he's got a blog, www.eldefensor.blogspot.com, and let's not forget Facebook. You can go and find him, and we'll have that information as images pop up onto the screen, and we'll be providing you his number for any hot stories, and we're going to be covering a couple. But let's start out with a little bit of politics, because you know on KTMV, it's a full contact sport. Thanks to our sponsors, River City Hospice, 882-5900, and Vasquez Flores Home Health, 881-9922. With me, I give you Homero Villarreal. How are you?
It's an honor to be here, Joe.
Hey, thanks for being here. Homero, you look like $1,000,000. I like the jacket, man. A little Al Capone-ish today. But anyway, let's get down to it feet first. Let's talk about politics and this year and redistricting. You heard the words of Judge and Commissioner Joe A. Gonzalez. Talk to us about your thoughts on redistricting and what's going on right now.
To spin the CPU a little bit, to sort of burn a couple of clock cycles in the computer, I think what's going on is we have a new powerhouse in town, and I think the psychology is high from the last elections. The Republicans had a sweep. So the psychology is high, and what we're starting to see is we have people that, of course, during the last election played a major role, like Lloyd Neal, that has a following, a large Democratic Party following.
Because he was
as far as
Democrat.
Todd Hunter and others that were
another
recruited.
Former Democrat.
So here you have the Republican Party bringing in a large chunk of Democrats, plus the other factions that are out there. Basically what they're doing, they're utilizing Neal because he's in the twilight of his life. They're using him to make as many inroads as they can into Nueces County. He was mayor of Corpus Christi for a long time, supported by big business, supported by the big structure. It's fantabulous, you know. So here you have the party trying to gain momentum as quickly as possible right now that they have this leader. And it's a whole new ball game, because we see a whole new generation that was not as socially conscious about civil rights, about unions, about collective bargaining, about hard economic times where one has to turn to you know, social programs sometimes just to survive on a daily basis. La familia, you know, keeping the family alive.
Y el base de la familia es la mujer.
You know, the whole basis in society is the family. But here you have sort of in history, we go back in history theoretically, and when one group, Alexander the Great, conquered the Persians and so on and so forth, what he did was really to try and gain as quickly as possible, then to impose their institutions. In other words, how do you conquer somebody politically? And here you learn.
You take away their beliefs, man.
Well, you make them look at the world through your eyes. You know, listen to conservative radio. What's the whole purpose? You turn on that radio.
Yeah, let's get rid of Hispanic Heritage Months. What a bunch of racism. You know, racist jargon on white talk radio said get rid of Hispanic Heritage Month. If you had said that about Black heritage, my friends, there'd be a riot at your radio station.
But you know what happens when you conquer another group? You want to make them look at the world through your eyes. And when you're living a life and you're looking at the world through somebody else's eye, through another power group, what happens is it's going to be an inferior position of yourself.
And I'm not going to be an Uncle Tomas, and neither are you.
I'm just talking about in power, ladies and gentlemen, it's A over B or B over A. Don't be idealistic to believe that A is equal to B, because all that egalitarian stuff, I haven't seen it. I mean,
all men are created equal, but some men are more equal than others.
And the whole basic institution is your family. Fight for your family. Fight for that first. What are the interests? De mi familia.
Tell me about it.
I mean, if you look at government begins with family.
El base
and if you have a strong government,
with the mother.
You have strong families. If you have weak families, you have a weak government.
Yes.
And there's just a microcosm of how I look at the world. But
what do you care about first, the government or your family?
I think County Commissioner Gonzalez hit on a theme. And that thing is that something's going on quickly. We're starting to see the leadership, and many are saying, well, we have a bunch of Anglos in office. We're going to have, pretty soon, we're going to have a white mayor, a county judge, a chair,
all
a police
Republican
chief as
control,
mayor, blah, blah, blah. What's that telling you is that the spirit and culture of the community is weak. What makes you weak is not believing in yourself, not re-examining the needs of your family, not believing that you control. And what happens to a person that becomes so weak and despondent to the point that he becomes a follower? He's trying to look at the world. He's looking for a Messiah like Sorrel to come in and save him. You know, when we started El Defensor, people would say, finally we have a paper of our own. But that was not the goal when we started the newspaper. We wanted to create leaders, not followers. And I think Commissioner Gonzalez is pointing that out. He wants the community activated. He wants parents to have some pride, stand up for your children, have a voice that speaks for your children, for your family.
Be proud to be Hispanic. Be proud to be Hispanic.
And he says, where do I get the strength? Well, summon the strength. Look at your family. Look at your kids in the eye. Every cell, every nerve, every bone in your body, believe me, will react when you think, when you develop the consciousness about familia and about community and about the world that's going on. Let me tell you, there's an attack on families. There's an attack on communities. We're starting to see programs disappear. We're starting to see the whole reality of what makes the children the doors of opportunity. If you look at Corpus Christi, it's becoming very monopolistic. Look at what growth do you see in Corpus Christi?
No, it's corporations controlling everything and suppression of programs like Head Start.
And let me tell you, people might say, well, Homer, you're too idealistic and you believe too many. Well, what happens? Just think for a moment. If you were to suppress all these young people that have something to contribute here, as Commissioner Gonzalez pointed out, in this community, and they go elsewhere to work. What happens? The whole motor of the economy in this area is entropy. Boom, the motor's going to turn off. There's going to be no growth. We need to bring out the best in the community. And how do we do that? By making them believe in themselves, by giving them the resources that they need. The greatest investment that we can have in this community is to those particular groups. There are certain groups. We pay the EDC. I've said this for years.
Economic Development
Corporation.
Corporation.
Said that they had a program, Think Big, that if the city gave them, so many millions, and the county and the port, it was going to boom. Where is the growth?
Well, clavaron la feria. I mean,
what happens, it went to certain sectors
clavaron
of the community.
La feria. Clavaron la feria.
And I've said it before that, and that's not right, damas y caballeros. We need to invest that money properly. And believe me, the issue is not even about race. If it's about Hispanic, Anglo, Black, tomorrow's going to be a social class. Tomorrow they're going to find something to divide the community, divide and conquer. We're all one race, the human race. There's different subcultures. We love each other. We respect each other. We bring out the best in our community. This is the strength. Let me tell you, I was sitting at the new taqueria there in Robstown at Rosie's Tamales, by the way. It used to be, now it's called Rosie's Restaurant.
Please, I'm gaining 2 more pounds just hearing you.
Some of the best tacos. And
my gosh.
And I was sitting there with a buddy there, and he calls himself Anglo, and he said, I went up north, visit my uncle, and somehow I felt out of place. I come to South Texas, I see the best of both worlds of what is Anglo and what is Hispanic, the unique culture from the area.
We are.
He said there's something so unique that even, we might not realize it, different ethnic groups, but we're part of this corner of the planet that is becoming a machine. And we're dependent on each other to grow our gardens and produce something so beautiful. But I think, let me tell you something about Commissioner Gonzalez. He's sincere. And I've always believed, no matter what your creed is, no matter what program or cause you represent, if you're sincere let me tell you, there's something genuine about that, because you're not being paid from New York by some corporate interest groups to be out promoting a Tea Party idea. You're not, you're not a selected pawn. They call it astroturfing.
Well, the Tea Party don't know that they are what? Controlled by the top corporation is controlling the Tea Party, isn't it?
Certain key leadership, because many of the followers and
they're good people here locally.
They have an agenda. They bring you in, but the agenda is already structured. Why join an organization where they know where they're going? Because this was master. It's like the taco sauce. You remember that commercial? That manufactured in New York,
Yeah, New
my
York
mine
City,
from San Antonio, and that's what we're talking about. Judge Gonzalez, Commissioner Gonzalez is uno de nosotros. He's a grassroots leader. He eats at our restaurants. He orbits our world.
24/7,
and let me tell you something. That Commissioner Gonzalez brought up one time. I might disagree with Homer. I might disagree with George.
You've blasted him. You blasted him.
But he said, I want everybody to remain the same, because we're different entities. Cada quien es un mundo.
Talk about thick skin like a rhino. Rhino Joe.
Yeah. But the uniqueness is we respect each other's beliefs, and there's a plurality of ideas.
That's what I'm talking about.
Where it becomes something wonderful. Let me tell you, so I think Commissioner Gonzalez represents a new type of leadership also, because we had a traditional Democrat and Republican, but I think Commissioner Gonzalez is saying, you know what, I'm beyond a party also. I'm part of every community I represent. So you see a certain personalities.
There has to be a plurality.
A certain beauty in the new type of leadership that's emerging in Corpus Christi. As far as the Republicans, I think you asked what's going on. Well, they're trying to gain momentum more and more, and they're going to try and penetrate every institution and office that's out there.
And I'm not picking on them, because I'll tell you what, for 20, 30 years, you know what my Republican friends that have come out on this show say is, and how better off were you with a regime that was Democrat, that all they cared about was themselves?
Well, this is what happens in any organization.
30 seconds, by the way, and then we're going to go to break.
Real quick, you had every organization that's in power a long time, what happens is certain elitist micro groups in the leadership start to dominate and dictate, and that's sort of what happened. People were disenchanted.
Disenfranchised.
And you had two groups challenging each other, which traditionally in the county you had the Salomonistas versus the downtown leadership,
Robstown versus
Republican,
downtown. Robstown versus downtown.
And now you only have pretty much one big group, which is funded by the EDC people and
so what was
Republicans.
Better? What was better? At least with that group,
you had competition.
You had competition. So now, a lot of people criticized the Salomonistas, but in their favor was they at least represented some of the people that were up and coming.
Where's the new structure? Where's the new voice? Where's the new competition? And remember, it's not there.
It's not there anymore. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. Homero Villarreal, love him, hate him, but never ignore him. El Defensor, the publicist from that magazine. And to learn more or subscribe, visit him at eldefensor.blogspot.com or visit his Facebook, and all that information and his phone number are appearing. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking more with Homero Villarreal about politics, about power, and about your pocketbook when we come back.